Welcome everyone, how's it going? I'm HejotoBroto and welcome to BrotoCast. Today I am joined by my awesome friend Ethan, aka Hideotronic. I'm going to get him to do a really quick introduction of himself. Ethan, what I want you to do is introduce yourself today in the style of like a 1990s movie trailer, if that makes sense. So with that, you know, the cheesy like movie trailer voice. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Give me a sec here.
No worries. Take as long as you need. And just so everyone knows, I didn't warn Ethan of this ahead of time. This is literally, he's having to come up with this right now.
Hey kids, how's it going? Have you turned on MTV this week to check out the latest hit album from Hideotronic? Why don't you go over to youtube.com/Hideotronic? That might not be the right URL, but do it anyway. And you'll get some sexy tunes from the greatest synthwave artist this decade has seen. And you'll be greeted with the music video from Together Forever Alone, available now on all music platforms.
Oh yeah, that is a good song, and that is a perfect segue, because in that music video, Ethan used clips from a TV show, and today, what we're going to be talking about just so happens to be TV shows, but not from like now, but TV shows from back when we were kids, which I think is going to be really interesting, because...
It's also going to totally date us.
Oh, yes. Yes, unfortunately it will. But this all came about, funnily enough, because Ethan was chatting to myself, his brother, and another friend about...
my brother, who did not show up today for the podcast.
Alan was supposed to be joining us as well, but apparently...
For undisclosed reasons.
But what was the show you were talking about? Because my brain is blanking, and...
So I was browsing through Disney Plus, as one does at 2 in the morning, and I rediscovered just how many shows I grew up watching, like on not just Disney Plus, but I started with Disney Plus, and then I was like, oh man, I like went back and checked out stuff like Powerpuff Girls on Cartoon Network and Teen Titans and Ben 10 and all those classic shows. Avatar, Last Airbender, loved that show, but I found Recess on Disney Plus, and I hadn't watched that since I was like 6, and I was like, holy crap, this is like immediately shooting me back to when I was a small child and being like, adults don't understand my problems. Recess is the best.
When I remember when I was a kid as well, I thought Recess was so edgy, especially what's his name, DJ, is he?
Oh yeah, TJ.
TJ,
yeah.
That's it. I was like...
TJ Detweiler!
I was like, oh, I want to be TJ. This kid's so edgy and cool. He doesn't respect the authority of his teachers. It's like,
he wore his hat backwards too, which, you know...
For 1990s white kids, that was like... That alone made you a bad boy.
Yeah, he had the baggy jeans and like the... And he was always like, he was the edgy kid, but also he was always there for you in your time of need.
Oh yeah, your best friend. And there was what's her face? Spinelli, the kind of...
Yeah, Spinelli, who I had like a big old crush on when I was a kid.
I think I did too, to be fair. Just again...
And I later found out she was like the voice of Pajama Sam.
Yeah, when you said that, I was like, oh my word, I'll never unsee that now. Oh man.
And as soon as you hear it, you're just like, oh wow, I should be going on a humongous entertainment adventure.
Oh yes. But yeah, so all that kind of... Ethan was sending all these screenshots and clips, and that got me thinking, like, we need to do an episode on TV shows from when we were kids, because there's so much there.
And I'll try my hardest to refrain from bashing the new reboot shows of some of the classics that I enjoyed as a kid.
Yeah.
Teen Titans Go!
Yep, yeah, I agree. The original Teen Titans was so good, we did not need Teen Titans Go. No way.
Powerpuff Girls reboot.
Ben 10 reboot 8 times.
Yeah. that show basically has never, like, it's just been consistently running since we were kids.
Exactly.
And we just dropped off after the original show ended.
Yeah, I think I watched a little bit of Alien Force, and then after Alien Force, I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I remember like watching Alien Force, and they were definitely going for the like, yeah, that's right. Where did you know? Yeah, everything takes place at night.
Ben 10 has matured. He's like, yeah.
Ben 10 is older, but still acts the same age.
Yeah, and I mean, the show's no longer worthy of even being called Ben 10. It's like Ben 200 now. There's so many freaking aliens.
I know, like they have the Pokemon problem now,
Yes.
where it's like the original show was named after the fact that he only had 10.
I mean, even in the original show, though, it quickly expanded to like 15,
Yeah.
16 aliens.
Yeah, he had like 20 by the end of the show or something.
And some of them you'd see like once. And it's like, did we really need to add an alien for one episode that would never be seen again? Like Upchuck.
Yeah.
What the heck, man?
Upchuck.
That guy never showed up again.
Upchuck was cool. I liked
was.
Upchuck. I thought he had like infinite stomach ability, and as a kid I was like, that's so cool.
I wish I could eat whatever I want and spit it out. Kill my enemies. Oy.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite Ben 10 alien? This is like we're diving into deep,
Yeah, this is-
cheesy kids.
This is dangerous, but
kids nostalgia.
I honestly liked so many of the Ben 10 aliens, but I think
right?
I don't know. I could never choose a favorite between Accelerate and Diamond Head. Those were like my two favorites, I think. What about you?
Those guys were pretty cool. I always liked Ghost Freak's design.
Oh, yeah.
He had a cool.
Yeah.
I had and then he like left the show. I guess maybe he scared too many kids.
Yeah, I never really got why they got rid of him, but yeah, like you said, maybe it was just too kind of creepy for children. I don't know.
He was. He was like he was a demon. He was literally like he like leaves the show because he was a demon and wanted out of the watch thing.
Yeah,
so.
it was pretty dark. That whole Ghost Freak kind of storyline. I never really got into Upgrade.
Upgrade. Yeah, he was fun.
I thought he was. I thought his design was really cool, but I thought they could have. I don't know.
They never utilized him at all.
No, exactly.
I don't think.
No, exactly. Like
the fire guy, Heat Blast, is always like the easy one to be like, oh yeah, he's cool because he's just a fire dude.
well, and I think that was the thing that as a kid I found most annoying about Ben 10. As much like, just to clarify, Ethan and I were like obsessed with Ben 10 for a long time. Moving on from Ben 10, I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I was absolutely obsessed with Scooby-Doo. And that is another show that has an infinite number of reboots and films and...
Yes.
Yeah.
Of varying quality, too.
Yeah, I mean...
Although, I must say, I do enjoy quite a number of the movies that they come out with that are just so unbelievably cheesy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, Scooby-Doo, for what I experienced... I mean, this was when I was a kid, so I obviously had a completely different way of judging shows, but I used to think Scooby-Doo was like the bee's knees. Yeah, I actually used to count time in Scooby-Doo's when I was really little. So, like, if I was on a car journey with my mum, I would say, like, oh, Mum, how many Scooby-Doos left till we arrive? And she'd say, one Scooby-Doo or two Scooby-Doos. Like, yeah, that's how much I loved Scooby-Doo when I was a kid. What about you? What were some of your favorites as a kid?
I was just thinking, like, another show that I grew up watching was the Lilo and Stitch TV show.
Oh, yes. I just rewatched that whole thing on Disney+.
Really?
Yes.
That's on my list of things to get through. I also noticed there was a Hercules TV show that I'd never heard about, but there's like 60 episodes. They made so many episodes of this thing.
It's crazy. I was in a mood to just rewatch a bunch of old Disney shows. I had to stop myself because I looked at like DuckTales and I was like, there are like hundreds of episodes of this thing and they're all so good, but I do not have the time to commit to 200 episodes of DuckTales or whatever. But,
I will commit to getting through Goof Troop again because I loved Goof Troop when I was a kid.
Goof Troop is so good, and I always loved Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers.
I actually didn't see that one when I was a kid.
I loved it because it had a sort of Indiana Jones-esque vibe to it. So just like that, but with kind of that Disney humor and the Chip and Dale. I loved it personally.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing about Disney Plus is you can basically relive all of your childhood nostalgia again, but also you can find stuff that like was out at the same time, and you're like, I had no idea this was real.
Yeah, no, I mean that's one of the things I'm enjoying most as well, is just seeing what I missed when I was a kid. But there are some things that they haven't yet put on Disney Plus that I would love to see.
This podcast is not sponsored by Disney Plus, by the way.
It's not. I can guarantee you it's not. Please sponsor me, Disney Plus. I need sponsorship.
Please, Papa Disney.
Please. But I would love to see one, American Dragon Jake Long on there, which I loved, and two, even more so, Buzz freaking Lightyear of Star Command.
Oh, they don't have that
No,
on there?
they do not have that on Disney Plus.
Oh, no.
And that, I think, is one of the best, like, Disney shows ever made.
Yeah, no, I remember for a while the movie, the Buzz Lightyear of Star Command movie that came out, I always thought that was Toy Story 3 for the longest time.
Yeah, well, that's partly because where we lived, outside of the US, all the pirated copies called it Toy Story 3. It's like, wait a second.
That's right.
What the heck is this?
But, like, there's, like, a little bit of CG in that movie. They, like, use it to put the VHS tape in the video player, and they're just like, okay, we're gonna watch my new movie now. That's not Buzz's voice.
That's definitely not...
How's it going there, Woody? We're gonna go watch my new movie.
Yeah, Shay, Woody, there seems to be some... yeah. But, yeah, I mean, that... I rewatched a few episodes of that show recently, because they're all on YouTube. And...
Really?
Yeah, and the amount of, like... The whole show is basically... Not a ripoff, but, like, they play a lot on the whole Star Wars and Star Trek stuff. Like, if you rewatch it, so much of it is straight out of...
They even do that in the movies. I only remember watching... I think I only saw the Star Command movie. I never watched the show. Because it just wasn't, like, on whenever I was watching.
Yeah. Oh, no, we had way back in the days of TiVo. That was one of the 2 shows I had my mum set up TiVo for me for. Oh, no, 3. Scooby-Doo, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, and the Magic School Bus.
Oh, Magic School Bus, dude. That is one of my favorite shows from when I was a kid. However, I have actually watched it recently, and it is painful.
Oh, is it really?
It's because, like, the stuff that they're teaching you, like the actual substance of the show, is stuff that you learned in the 2nd grade. You know?
Fair enough.
So, like, when you're watching it, really the only thing left is the entertainment value of it, and it's kind of the same gags every episode. Like, there's always, you know, Ralphie makes a pass on Miss Frizzle, Arnold wishes he was not at school, and Carlos makes a dad joke, and everyone goes, Carlos, wah, wah. You know, and they kind of do nothing else the rest of the show except have a different setting, and like the settings are cool, but again, like, it's like, where do babies come from? They never cover that.
Today we're going inside the reproductive tract of a male. Okay.
Oh man,
what channel was Magic School Bus on? Was it PBS Kids?
I think it was PBS, yeah. As well as Arthur,
Yes.
which is, by the way, one of the best shows ever made.
For some weird reason, I went back and rewatched some episodes of Arthur a few years back, and actually that show has stood the test of time. It is still a good kids show.
Yeah, like the people who write for that show do a lot of they're very good at covering topics that are not just, like, rare for kids shows, but also important, I think, for most kids to learn. You know, there's episodes about parents getting divorced. There's episodes about pets dying. There's episodes about family members dying. There's episodes about, like, failing something at school. There's, you know, things that are, like, they're not fun to talk about, but, like, it's important that you see that it is a thing that can happen.
I think the thing with Arthur as well is somehow it managed to teach, like, some sort of lesson in every episode, like you were saying, but without it being, like, shoved down your throat, cringy sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And if you actually watch that episode with Mr. Rapper, and there's nothing like an agenda that's being pushed with it. It's just like Arthur and his... And it's mostly just, like, Arthur and his friends learning, like, oh, the teachers can get married, too. Like,
yeah, right.
You know.
And I think, I don't know, I've got to say, like, I think Arthur is of a completely different quality to most kid shows. It's just a good show.
And I'll die on this hill, but the theme song slaps.
Oh, yes. It's so good.
It's the best reggae beat I've ever heard in my life.
Another PBS kid show that my sister and I were obsessed with as well was Dragon Tales. Did you ever watch that?
Dragon Tales, Dragon Tales. I remember the theme song more than I remember the actual show. I just remember, like, what some of the characters looked like.
Yeah, like, see, I'm forgetting all of the names and things, but there was the big blue dragon.
Yeah, there's a big blue one. There was the one with 2 heads, and the theme song said something about 2 heads are better than one, and I remember thinking, that's true, when I was 4 years old.
And was there a purple dragon? No, one of the two-headed ones was purple, wasn't they?
That's right. They were like split. They were like Siamese twins together or something like that.
Purple and green, I think.
Right.
And then there was the little pink one.
The same colors as Larry Boy.
Oh, yes! VeggieTales!
Dude, we grew up on VeggieTales.
Bro, VeggieTales was my life when I was a kid.
VeggieTales had some quality to it. I did like some episodes of it. There's definitely some episodes you're watching this and you're like, okay, guys, but what's the point of this story that you're dragging me through? But like a lot of them, they did have some pretty funny humor written into it, and like, I mean, the animation is it's unique. We'll say it's unique.
Wasn't it like the first 3D animated TV show or something?
Well, so if it actually aired on TV, it would have been. But no one wanted to air a Christian show on public TV, so they were like, put it direct to video. And so technically it's older than some stuff like Toy Story and a lot of like big CG movies and shows that were groundbreaking, but like it is older than that. It's just like,
I honestly think VeggieTales was quality up until like the Sumo of the Opera era. Then it just started going downhill. But before
they had the Jonah movie, and I remember going to the theater to watch that movie. You know, we went to see VeggieTales, and then after VeggieTales, I guess like they made a lot of money off that movie, so they totally changed up their animation style, and I was never as big a fan.
I don't even want to talk about that new crap.
It just makes you mad.
Yeah, it's not even worth the time.
Well, there's lots of shows like that. I mean, we joked about it earlier, but like the new Teen Titans Go show, and they did a reboot of Powerpuff Girls, which I thought was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, what was that called?
It was just Powerpuff Girls. Like they
really?
were literally trying to say like, this is the real Powerpuff Girls now, you know. And the guy who was writing and directing for it was pushing hard for this like modern feminist agenda, and I'm all for modern feminist media. However, most of what they actually do in the show negates that message. Like they started cutting out characters from the original show. Like I forget what's the lady's name who's the assistant to the mayor in that show.
I can't remember. All I remember is you only ever see her legs in the red dress.
Yeah, well, they cut her out of the new show because I guess they didn't want to show women being secretaries or something. And they cut out the female antagonist. Gosh, this is how little I care about the show. I don't remember anyone's name. But they had like a female antagonist, and after like a couple episodes they cut her out because they didn't want like a bad female character in their show. And that's not me speculating too. That's like the reason they gave for cutting these characters out. And I think that totally hurts the pro empowering women message that they're trying to push, you know.
I may be alone in saying this, but I just think that kids shows don't need to be pushing a political agenda because children don't even know how to process that sort of thing, you know?
Right. Well, and the original Powerpuff Girls did have occasionally like a message they were trying to push about empowering young girls, but it never felt like the theme of this podcast has been, it didn't feel ham-fisted. And granted, part of that may be because we grew up on it, and so we're much more nostalgic for it. And when we were kids, we didn't really care or notice that kind of stuff. And now that we're adults, we're cynical, and we notice it a lot more, and it feels a lot more like they're trying too hard with new shows. But but all that said, it really does feel like the original Powerpuff Girls was a not just a good example, but I think a landmark in children's entertainment that was pushed heavily to empower young girls. Anyway, how about a show that has absolutely nothing political in it whatsoever? SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, another show that was amazing and has now been desecrated.
I haven't watched SpongeBob SquarePants in a while, so I don't know what the new show is like.
It's not funny.
Is it not?
No, it honestly, it's like, it's just lost the charm that it used to have. Like, I can't think of any particular reason that it's not funny, but it just really, it's almost like it's trying too hard now. Like, they know what makes people laugh in SpongeBob, and so they're just doing
Well, and I do wonder, again, because this is a show all about nostalgia suddenly.
Right.
I do wonder how much of it is like the original jokes were funny because we'd never heard them before. And now they're just like, they are doing the same jokes for a new audience. So maybe they find it funny. But I don't know. I don't know any young kids who are watching SpongeBob.
I think that's testament to it as well. SpongeBob, when we were kids, was huge. Nowadays, it's like SpongeBob, okay? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Like, it's
one among a sea of many other animated shows.
Right, whereas when, at least kind of where I was, the Nick shows, Hey Arnold, My Life as a Teenage Robot, there are a bunch of good ones, but SpongeBob was like the one everyone found hilarious.
Right. When I was a kid, it was like, if you wanted like good story, you'd go to Nick to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, and if you wanted to be just delightfully entertained while you ate your cereal in the morning, you'd watch SpongeBob.
Exactly. But I don't know. I think it's just a case of, like with The Simpsons, it's been going on for so long, it's just kind of been there, done that, move on to something new type of deal now.
So I've noticed, a lot of the shows we grew up watching, like there is some stuff from like the 80s in there, but like a lot of the shows we grew up watching are from late 90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s. But there are a couple shows after that I did really enjoy in my later youth and early teenage years, such as Regular Show and Adventure Time.
Yes, both of those are amazing shows. Mm-hmm. So good.
There was a period of time when I was like, I felt like, I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, am I starting to outgrow the young kids shows on here? Because they had stuff like, what was it, Chowder? I was not a fan of Chowder. I could not sit through episodes of that. And I know a lot of people like that show. I just, and like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, I was never really into.
No, I quite liked, what was it, Gumball, The Imaginary World of Gumball, was it?
Yeah, The Amazing World of Gumball.
The Amazing World of Gumball. I found that funny for a little while, but
I liked the animation. I thought that was pretty creative.
That was excellent. But yeah, Regular Show and Adventure Time, to me, I think of the quote modern like cartoons, as in when, as you said, when we were kind of like early teens and stuff.
They're not modern anymore. Both of them have ended.
Well, yeah, that's true. That sort of era of cartoons, I think those two were the best.
Right, the
they're
beginning
so
of
good.
2010s era.
Yeah, exactly. So good.
Because they felt a lot. At least Regular Show gave you the very sitcom-y feel that you got from old 90s shows, which I really appreciated. And then Adventure Time was like this really creative world that you got to explore.
It was just kind of, and that's the thing, I think. For me, the thing about Adventure Time that I loved was the world. It was like, there's nothing like it. It really did sort of feel like you were going on an adventure, just because you never knew what was coming around the corner, because it was so random. It literally anything could happen, And I thought that was amazing.
We kind of touched on anime a little bit earlier. I was probably more into anime growing up than you were. I don't know how much anime you watched.
Yu-Gi-Oh! and Pokemon, I know those aren't always counted as like real anime, but those were the closest to anime.
I mean, they're just,
they're like kids'
more
anime.
More westernized.
But yeah, and yeah, that for me was, as far as anime went in when I was young, was Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon.
Did you watch the English dub for Yu-Gi-Oh! With all the like heavily censored like finger guns and like nobody can have arms showing? Like they went above and beyond to try and make that show as accessible to the same audience as VeggieTales, basically.
Yeah, because see, I watched Yu-Gi-Oh! On Warner Brothers Kids, WB Kids, so it was all the censored Western versions and stuff.
Yeah. I just remember, because I remember friends would have Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards growing up, and I always associated like the Pokemon trading cards with the show and the games and everything. So in my opinion, I always liked the Pokemon show more than the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, because like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show would always attempt to look darker, but then because we got the censored version of it, like it was always more tame than the Pokemon show. And so I always I was never as into Yu-Gi-Oh!
I really want to talk about as well, like little kids shows, just to see what you watch. We're talking like 3-4 years old, because I don't know.
The big one for me was Bob the Builder. I grew up loving Bob the Builder, and believing and I almost died on a hill about this, but I was honest to God, I was very confident that it was an American show.
Yeah, I remember I always used to say it was English, but loads of my American
even
friends
though it
didn't believe
says
me.
BBC
Yeah.
at the opening of every episode, which I didn't know what BBC was. I didn't care.
I loved Bob the Builder. I also loved... you may not have even heard of this, because this is very English, but I loved a show called The Tweenies.
The Tweenies.
Yeah.
I have heard of it. I've never actually watched it.
So I went back and just watched a clip a few weeks ago just to see kind of... Because, I was obsessed with this as a kid, and I was thinking, like, was this show even good? And it's like... It's not a bad show, to be honest. Like,
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It is. It's like a puppet show.
Yeah.
I love those.
So they're people in these enormous costumes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was obsessed with it. But
They made 7 seasons of this show?
Yeah. It went on for
Holy cow.
ages. And I remember when I was a kid, I hated it because none of my friends in the States knew what the Tweenies was. So until I returned to the UK over summer to visit my cousins, that was the only time I could play Tweenies with anyone, because no one in America knew what the heck Tweenies was.
Well, yeah, I don't even think you brought it up when we were kids.
No, I didn't, because I just knew none of these American kids are going to know what the heck the Tweenies are.
Well, and I remember coming back to the States and talking about the Wiggles to people, and people didn't know what that was. And I was
The
like, was that
Wiggles.
just an Australian show?
The Wiggles
that
was
I just
weird.
happened to watch. 'Cause
Yeah.
I wasn't living in the U.S.
See, I never really got into the Wiggles. Never really got into it.
I mean, like, it's early childhood. Like, it's you're watching it when you're 2 or 3, and you learn the fruit salad song, and then every time you have fruit salad for the rest of your life, that song sticks in your head. So
Another, like, for me, a show that another show I never really got into as a kid, I don't know if you've heard of this either, I think this is British too, was Boobah.
Boobah.
Yeah, look up Boobah. It's weird.
Oh, gosh.
No word of a lie, these are people in, like, colored breast costumes.
What?
Yeah, they're
Primary colored.
boobs.
They're just boobs.
Yeah.
What the heck?
I don't know what they're actually supposed to be, but I just never got into Boobah when I was a kid. I mean, the name is Boobah, and they look like boobs, so I was like, this is stupid.
Oh, the program creator has my last name. No.
He's probably like your great uncle or something.
No.
Yeah, that was a show I never got into. One I know we were both into as kids was Thomas the Tank Engine.
Thomas the Tank Engine rolling around. So I'm living up in Washington now, and when I was a kid, like when I was super young, they used to have like Thomas fairs and they might be things that toured around the whole country. Mm-hmm. But when I was a kid, like they had one out in, I believe it was like Issaquah or some smaller town up in Washington, and it was called A Day Out with Thomas, and my parents used to take me for the first couple of years of my life. Like, we would all go, and you could just like see these giant actual train-sized versions of the Thomas the Tank Engine things. And I used to build all the trains when I was a kid, and I used to build my own tracks, and it was so fun, man. And that combined with Legos like really lets out your childhood creativity of building things.
Going back to sort of a slight ripoff of Thomas, there was a company out there that decided, I know you know this, but there was a company out there that decided to take this idea of talking vehicles and extend it to the world of aviation, which blessed us with JJ the jet plane.
Well, the show it was all about teaching kids about like moral lessons, things like don't leave your friends behind, things like that. But like it was early CG, it was like late 90s, wasn't it, or something, so the animation was really, really primitive and very scary to look at. Everything was more uncanny than watching like the Polar Express movie.
I also loved, did you ever watch PB&J Otter?
Oh my gosh, you are unlocking...
Yeah. Like the treasure
PB...
trove of memories.
Yeah, you're unlocking something I haven't accessed in years.
Yeah, because my sister and I
Holy
loved
crap,
PB&J
I did watch
Otter.
PB&J Otter. Yeah.
And Roly Poly Oly. Oh, man.
I did watch a lot of Roly Poly Oly. And that somehow, like, that was an early CG show that still kind of looks good.
Yeah, it worked.
Strangely
enough.
Because they didn't try and look real.
No, yeah, because I think everything in that was, the whole point of the show is everything was just geometrical shapes. So it was very easy to animate. You know, it's not hard to make a circle, a
He's
sphere.
roly-poly-oly, he's round and round, something like that. I almost forgot, but one of my absolute favorite shows that still I think does hold up to this day, even if it is like, I mean, because of the format of the show and the fact that the episodes are so short, it can't obviously be as great of storytelling as some other shows can be. But like Rescue Heroes, I grew up on Rescue Heroes like crazy. I had so many of those action figures when I was a kid. And I watched basically every episode that they aired, because they used to put them on VHS tapes that came with the action figures. It was genius.
Yes, my first ever rescue hero was I forget his name. It was the firefighter.
Billy Blazes.
Yes, that's it. With the cool, I just remember the coolest thing about them. Well, two things. One was that they each came with like a tool that would actually do something. So you press the button and it would like hammer out. And second, their gigantic feet. Like
That's right, they did have very large feet for no reason.
Which as a kid, I just thought was awesome, because you could like stick them in the mud and there was no worries that these feet would like fall off because they were just gigantic. But yeah, the show was so good.
Well, yeah, because the show, they always had like, it wasn't even like they were trying to push a moral lesson on the audience.
Right.
It was mostly just like safety things. Like things that you would learn if you were in police academy or fire academy.
Right.
Like, you know, like I learned about things that I was never in Boy Scouts as a kid, but like they had a lot of stuff about like, you know, don't leave open flames open at a campfire, or if you're trapped underwater, you know, do this to hold your breath longer. You know, like things that were like really helpful if you were ever actually in danger.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember loving that.
Yeah, and my favorite episode of Rescue Heroes was the one where it's about an earthquake, I believe, and there's all the people on the subway train who get stuck. Mm-hmm. That I loved that episode. I don't know. I think it was because in Seattle, you know, we used to get reasonably big earthquakes. So I just loved that episode because I was like, oh, I've been in an earthquake. I can relate to this. It's like, well, not exactly.
Well, and then they came out with a movie, which, by the way, if you haven't watched the Rescue Heroes movie in a while, it is like pretty good for something as low budget and to as young an audience as they were trying to aim for. It's pretty good. Like the writing is, it's okay. I mean, like it's not blowing the roof off of any kids shows here, but like the story is cohesive. It feels very tense, like it has stakes to it. The only big issue with the movie is it has like this early cell shaded animation for CG, which, I mean, it looks fine, but like it is a little cheesy to look at. But the story itself is actually really well written, and the voice cast does a good job, and they've even got like this song at the end that's just like, we are many, we are one, we are strong when we work together.
They're like
awesome.
Late 90s.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Oh yeah.
Love it.
Did you ever watch Zaboomafoo as a kid?
Zaboomafoo! I retained almost nothing story-wise of what actually happened in that show. I don't even know if there was a story.
No, there isn't. It's just about those two brothers, and there's like it's one of those educational shows about animals where they have like the lemur in the barn and like the puppet lemur. I love that, but I mean,
we're going on an adventure, we're going on a trip. Yeah.
Yeah. My sister sent me a clip this morning of Zaboomafoo saying Zaboomafoo is 22 years old now.
The show?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
It aired 22 years ago today, Zaboomafoo.
Dang.
Yeah. So, I mean, that just puts it into perspective.
I hate to say it, man. I think we're getting a little older. I think that's what's happening.
I think just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I had to, again, totally dating myself here, but I had to ask Alan what POG meant.
You didn't know what pogs were? Wait.
No. I know what pogs were, but I mean what the current lingo of pog to type pog in. I didn't know what that meant.
What does pog mean?
So people have given it different definitions. The main one I've heard is that it means play of the game. So like if somebody wants to say in like a Twitch chat or something that you're doing a good job, like you've gotten the play of the game, they'll just type pog in the chat. And I like people were saying Pog to me in regular text conversations, and I'm like, what the heck are you talking? I don't know what you're talking about. I feel old. Anyway, I just saved you an embarrassing conversation between you and someone else who's like, dude, that's Poggers, bro. Are there any other shows that I haven't covered? I mean, I watched a lot of like Sesame Street as well on PBS, and
Yep, and
they used to
World.
they used to air Charlie Brown Peanuts cartoons sometimes that I watched.
Yeah, and my sister and I used to love two on PBS Kids called Cyber Chase and Liberty's Kids.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember those.
Yep, so one was about like...
Those were on PBS.
Yeah, so Liberty's Kids was like a retelling for children of like the Revolutionary War and that type of stuff, which was really good. And Cyber Chase, I think, was about... It was something to do with computers. Like the main bad guy was called Hacker. But I can't remember much more about Cyber Chase. I just remember loving it.
I remember the kids in that show reminded me of... There was a Jumpstart game that I had as a kid, and it was like, what is it? It was like Spy Master or something. It came out around the same time because like kids spy stuff was getting really popular at that point, and so you had things like Kim Possible, the show, coming out, and Spy Kids was probably one of the earlier examples of like aiming spy stuff to kids.
Yeah, and Totally Spies.
Totally Spies. Yeah.
Oh, I just had a sudden recollection of another show I loved. Codename Kids Next Door. I freaking loved that show.
That show was pretty sick, and I remember feeling cool when you watched it.
Oh yeah, that was what like the cool kids in school watched.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though the main kid is bald and has a football head.
Yeah, I never... Oh, Football Head. Hey Arnold. That was a good show as well.
Hey Arnold, yeah. Which, who else had football heads? A bunch of the kids in Backyard Baseball.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was those games, man. You gotta do a video about those when you get your review stuff going.
I know. I'm currently working on some stuff. I have a gaming channel / Twitch channel called Enauru, Enauru, that I'm working on stuff right now, but my computer is going to be in the shop for about a week, so can't do anything. By the time this comes out, who knows, I may already have that stuff set up, but yeah, holy cow, I'm looking at Cyber Chase. This is unearthing some childhood memories I've totally forgotten about.
Oh yeah, and Jimmy Neutron, Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy,
Dog.
Courage. Yeah. So many good things to talk about. I just wish we had like all the time in the world to record, but realistically, I know you go over a certain amount of time, people aren't going to click it.
In your recent movie review about Black Klansman, if you guys haven't seen that, go check out HejotoBroto's review of Black Klansman. We were also talking off camera about a website called Letterboxed, Letterboxd. And that is a fantastic website I've been using for about a year now, where you can basically just log in a collection all the movies you've seen, and I mean, you have to enter them yourself, but like the more you add in there, the more you can be like, oh, I have already seen this, and you can even leave a little review blurb if you want, or a full essay if you really feel inclined, and you can rate the movies, so you can make your own, basically your own collection of, because there's so many movies out there's so many shows. Sadly, Letterboxd is only for movies, so you can't do TV shows on there. I hope there is another website that lets you do shows, because oh my gosh, there's so much garbage to watch.
Oh yeah, there's too much to watch, honestly, but it's great because it just means there's always something to watch.
Basically, what I'm also trying to plug my Letterboxd page. So if you guys are listening and you're like, oh, I wonder what Ethan Hideotronic thinks about this movie, you can head on over to my Letterboxd page and maybe I have a review for it. You know, I've done about like 400 so far, and I've barely scratched the surface of all of the movies I've watched. So,
but yeah, thank you again, Ethan Hideotronic, for being here. It's always awesome to have you on the podcast. Check out Hideotronic.
Thank you for having me.
Check out Enauru. I'll put I'll put a link to Hideotronic in the description and his Enauru stuff if hopefully he gets that going before this is posted. Check out my A Year in Film series. if you enjoy this podcast in any sense, share it with your friends, share it with people who may be interested. Let's make this thing grow. Let's get some listeners out there.
You sounded like you're about to plug some merch, too.
I have no merch, but maybe if we ever get enough listeners.
But if we have enough listeners, some BrotoCast merch? All right, well, thanks for having me, man.
It's been a pleasure. We will do this again. Thank you for being here, and thanks everyone for listening. See you guys next time. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.